Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. Wafula Chebukati's sworn affidavit in response to Raila Odinga's Supreme Court case, in detailing what was seen as a behind-the-scene lobby by a section of deep state for Wafula Chebukati to announce Raila Odinga as the president-elect. And while we saw that affidavit in response to Raila Odinga as one that was just populist, and it did not really address the real issue that Raila Odinga was actually talking about in his petition. Raphael Tuju today gave a blow-by-blow account on what exactly happened between him and Wafula Chebukati. And when I listened to Tuju, the video that I shared in this channel, Tuju explained why they held a 4 a.m. meeting with Wafula Chebukati. The meeting that they held, according to Raphael Tuju, was to address some issues that were pending in terms of the security or the integrity of the results that were at the IBC portal. When Tuju spoke passionately about a man who had informed them about mischievous things that were happening in the IBC server. So he went to Wafula Chebukati to implore him to look into the matter. But it was not easy for him to seek audience with Chebukati because, according to him, probably Chebukati was dodging him. However, I want to believe that what Tuji is saying is that he has been having close ties with Wafula Chebukati. And this is not just in the context of this election, because Tuju is a politician that has been at the center of elections since 2017. And while the commissioners and Chebukati himself has given account of the private engagements with Raphael Tuju, but what opens this is this. And I once asked, if someone was to bribe Chebukati, or probably the deep state team that you talk about was to bribe Chebukati, then Chebukati did not take that, then what do you think was the counter offer? Because at the end of the day, what this shows you is that Chebukati had a side. I don't think if he didn't take the so-called offer that he's saying that Tuju wanted to give, that they will be rewarded wholesomely, if he would not take that offer, why or what would have pushed him to take the other offer? Was there a probability that Chebukati was politically inclined? That's not a wrong question. But from what I can say, the Form 34B, which is the certificate that is given to the president-elect, was auctioned to the highest bidder. That is the revelation. That is what is in open, that ticket was awarded to the highest bidder. And of course, there is more into this. I got an extract of Tuju's speech on this, and I wanted to listen to a bit of it so that when we come back at the end, the other side of this interview, of this analysis, we'll try to look at this in other perspectives.
The issue I'd brought up with him was that I'd received intelligence from one of the IBC officials who complained that some Form 34A were being brought down and they were being replaced by other Form 34A. He was not able to know exactly the location from which this was happening, but he brought it to me once, first time, and I reported this to the DCI, who dispatched officers to have an interview with this person. This gentleman was so terrified, and he actually mentioned the case that he had been threatened by Mr. Majan when he brought it up with him, that he should not play with him, he'll know who Mr. Majan is. Coming from the memory of Musandu, I've never seen a more scared young man. He did take it up with one of his seniors, and the seniors, to corroborate the story, also told me, yes, he had received, the senior had received the report, and there was absolutely nothing they could do unless I talk with the chairman himself. I tried several times to access the chairman, and actually a day passed. And the following morning when I came and I insisted I was going to see him, he had issued instructions to a senior police officer by the name Samuel Arap Kimeu, who actually physically blocked me from trying to get into IBC proceedings at Bomas of Kenya that day. I happened to have known the back door, and I used a little bit of my public relations with the officers at the back, and I managed to get in. Then, again, the officers of Mr. Chebukati refused to see me, saying that he was very busy. He was receiving reports from returning officers, and therefore I could not go in. I was further concerned by the fact that by that time, Chebukati had made a ruling that all the returning officers from the counties must report to him first before the verification, the papers are verified on the floor of the hall. I had concerns about that because he was himself closed in that room with Mr. Molu and Mr. Marjan, and therefore it was obvious to me that something opaque was taking place.
Now, guys, what is the interpretation of this Tuju and Chebukati outburst? This confrontation between Tuju and Chebukati, what is the interpretation? Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and like our video. I still want to remind us of a 50 shillings Sarah challenge that is still going on. We extended the fundraiser for 15 more days to support one of our subscribers that is in hospital, locked up a medical bill close to 1 million. We are really short of the target by 215,000, and we extended the fundraiser for 15 days. So up to 5th September, we'll still be running this, and I believe that by then we shall achieve the target. I want to say this. While the affidavit by Wafula Chebukati seems to have pointed out to an influence from Raphael Tuju, but why did it? Because the meeting had many of other people, but why is it that the one for Raphael Tuju is one that has been picked up? And it's not a coincidence that the same meeting where Raphael Tuju met with Wafula Chebukati, he was with Amos Wako and other people. Now, the corridors have had it that Amos Wako has direct links to one of the lawyers, the Supreme Court, not lawyers, but one of the judges in the Supreme Court. You could see that that affidavit was just trying to drag names. In fact, it was just dragging names together so that at one point, if in case Philomena Muli is going to give, and so I've mentioned, if Philomena Muli is going to give a verdict and it will go against Deputy President, maybe they will pull the string and say, you know, this has been there. So these conversations behind the scene, I think, are just meant to drag names of people into the case. But then, what I can see, Chebukati's ties with the president-elect William Ruto was a very strong covalent bond. There was a bond, and you cannot take the coincidental defense that Kenya Kwanza took on the issue of IBC. I am for one person that believes that the push by Wafula Chebukati, when he was actually saying, when Wafula Chebukati was coming out to speak about the ballot printing tender, when Raila Odinga hit took a swipe at them, saying that, of course, there was corruption there. And the way Kenya Kwanza were playing defense of IBC Commission, and of course, saying the way they are being intimidated and they want to listen to a voice from somewhere, I think all that was just reverse psychology. But the real deal was there was a covenant bond. Now, if there is something I've always said, and to many people you will actually come to agree, is that this election, there was a lot of monetary investment. I think the budget for this election, apart from what was at the campaign trail, election day, there was a lot of contingency plan. And what you can see is Chebukati had some contingency plan behind the scene. But then, because we were so specific that Raphael Tuju's petition, or rather Chebukati's affidavit, was actually diverting the attention, or rather the direction of the case, from the real issues to what us personally termed as just drama, theatrics, and political narratives and stories, just for newspaper. The fact that Tuju is now taking on Chebukati head-on is a very interesting twist to that affidavit, because I don't think the judges will really buy into that, because I don't know, I don't understand how that is an evidence to say that you never committed an offense. So the fact that Tuju is now going head-on with Wafula Chebukati is a very good approach, because that is something that can be pushed even down to the lower courts, because it looks like it's more of a personal altercation between the two of them, and it has little to add on the presidential petition. So the fact that Tuju is now going with the Wafula Chebukati, it's interesting, because it will push that affidavit to the periphery, and we'll really see whether this is going to be part of it. One thing that you can appreciate and you can see in this is the commission had formed a camp, a nuclear camp, around the chairman, and that nuclear camp isolated the Johnny Camlet commissioners, the 4 breakaway commissioners. If you listen to what, if you read the affidavit by Chebukati and also listen to what Tuju is saying, Tuju said that he tried to reach out to Abdi Gulie, and Abdi Gulie was supposed to help in secure meeting with Chebukati. It did not happen. And he was reaching them to help address the issue, which probably they have not addressed. But of interest here also is that the camp, there was a camp, this camp around Chebukati is the camp that isolated the other 4 commissioners. I was told some were even relegated to kukaribisha ugeni, VIP, at the VIP lounge. Others were just read the results. Others were just taking care. So they were not given the real issues, or rather the real responsibilities they were supposed to do in that government of Kenya. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my take on the behind-the-scene deals that Wafula Chebukati took. And that is what might have shortened Raila Odinga. That's my bold.